Welcome to Get Up in the Cool, old-time music with Cameron DeWhitt and friends. October is Get Up in the Cool month, which means I'm sharing my conversations and jams with all of old time's heaviest hitters. And in exchange, I'm asking you, my listeners, to help me share the show on Facebook, rate the show on iTunes, and generally use all your collective influence to make Get Up in the Cool break the internet. Like, I don't know, tweet it at the Avett Brothers or something. You're cool people, you have connections. Just leverage it for the greater good, for old time's sake. Also, if the spirit moves you, please sign up to be a sustaining supporter of Get Up in the Cool on Patreon. If you sign up by the end of October, you'll get a Best of 2016 CD, and you'll get to help me decide what's on it. I'm really excited about this episode. I'm still somewhat new to old time, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I asked David Bass to be a guest. I now know that he is, in fact, an old-time shaman. The man plays a fiddle like a West African drummer. His musical wisdom just goes really deep. It's untranscribable. I think I did okay, but I was definitely barely holding on. If you want to get the full fly-on-the-wall experience, my new friend Josh Plouffe took video of the tunes. Thanks, Josh. You may be watching me explain this to you on YouTube right now. If not, just search for my channel, Cameron DeWhitt, and you'll find it. Anyway, if you're watching this, you'll see David Bass all zenned out in the way that he gets, while I just sort of cringe and wince as I try to keep up. Stick around after the interview for details on how to access a bonus video and help support the show. David Bass, everyone. Enjoy.
Christmas.
David Bass.
Hey.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to Get Up
Thanks.
in the Cool. I just feel like you welcomed me into my own show. That was sick. That was wonderful.
That's a good tune.
Yeah, where'd you learn that tune, David?
That's a lot of people would call the round peak tune, or the style that comes from an area around the Mount Airy, North Carolina, around the mountains just outside of town.
Yeah.
And I think that most people in the United States over a certain age have some kind of a conscious knowledge buried in their childhood memories of the Andy Griffith Show.
Yes.
Will
certainly.
pretty much teach you a lot about what the Round Peak region was about.
Yeah.
And one of the particular characters that represented the spirit of Round Peak was Ernest T. Bass. And Andy would have to climb the mountain and go up because he was causing trouble, throwing rocks at people, and that was the nature and the character of the mountain people. Homemade liquor.
Yeah.
Throwing rocks. That's playing fiddle and the banjo really was a big part of it, which was also depicted. The Darlings were the family of people that also came down the hills, down from the mountain, and came and played music at Eddie's little cop shop.
I think I've seen at least a few episodes where there was some heavy jamming going on.
if you want to see the best of the Andy Griffith Show, there's what's that guy's name? Bob Denver, who played Gilligan on Gilligan's Island.
Huh.
Does a little dance and sings a verse to Boil Them Cabbage Down.
Yeah.
And just look that up on the Andy Griffith Show, like boil, they spell it, boil them cabbage, boil them cabbage, or whatever, however they spell the tune. And there's a great little thing of Gilligan knew his mountain music.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
What kind of dancing does he do on that episode?
Oh, just a little chicken wing square dance.
Just a little chicken wing square dance. Perfect.
He grabs the prettiest girl in the room and does a little strut.
That, of all the things I thought you would mention, I was not expecting an Andy Griffith reference right out the gate.
Now we can get to the real, the real kind of meat and potatoes of the old time music from that region. And we'll talk about real people that lived and played the music.
Right on.
Tommy Jarrell was one of my big heroes and inspiration, and he definitely played that tune and made recordings of it.
Yeah.
Fred Cochran was a fiddle player and a banjo player, and if you dig through the internet, and so much of this is posted on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Both the recordings that they made on records and people's field recordings that have been posted, videos of spontaneous jam sessions where Tommy Jarrell was playing at different locations.
Yeah.
Some of the names of the other fiddle players, and this was a common tune that they played in that region. So all the fiddle players, all the fiddlers, would have played it and probably at some point recorded it. So I would list in the the top list of the Round Peak or the Mount Airy, North Carolina fiddle players would be Tommy Jarrell, Fred Cochran.
Yeah.
Kyle Creed.
Yes.
Was known as a banjo player, and he built banjos, and most of those guys played Kyle Creed, a Kyle Creed built banjo.
Yeah.
He was also a great fiddle player.
Mm.
And if you get your hands there, hear some of the recordings of Kyle Creed playing the fiddle, it just broadens your understanding of that's another element of Round Peak music where it sounds the same, but it sounds different, and it's cool, and it just a little bit, just another expansion of understanding, those tunes and how the local people expressed the same tune over and over, each person in a different, slightly different way. But, always with that same, you recognize that accent from, from Western North Carolina or from Eastern Virginia. And this is like, these tunes had a specific accent. And that's, why we can recognize like a regional style.
Is there any way you can, what?
Oh, Ernest East is another important fiddle player, and he had a band that made some recordings, and they had great singing. Ernest East and the Pine Ridge Boys.
What separates Round Peak fiddling from other traditions, other isolated counties?
A huge range of mountains.
Well, yeah, but musically.
if you drive from Mount Airy up to Galax, Virginia, it's what, like 20 miles or something, and 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
So that's at that time what separated, some people. Like there's one sort of group of families on one side and another group on the other, and they traveled back and forth. Probably, people had business and went up over the mountain on like once or twice a week, or there might have been some, merchants or teamsters that were going every day. But it was, going even back to the 1950s, it was, it was tough to get across.
Yeah.
Until I don't know, when did they build 77? Like this interstate highway.
I'm from Oregon, so my geography and geographical history and.
So a lot of the same tunes would have been played in Galax, Virginia.
Yes.
And then up, some of those other like nearby communities and stuff, but there would have been a slightly different way, and people could describe, some of the differences in the way the thing sounded or the bowings and stuff. But, the proximity and travel was an important part. But then you also get, one town and you go to the next town. It's like the people. Like there's a list of names. It's like real people that played the music.
Yeah.
And that's what made these tunes special. And then also Tommy liked to point out that the reason that they had so much good music there was on account of the water. And because it takes good water to make good whiskey.
Yeah.
And they had really good water there. When you have whiskey, there's always going to be a lot of music.
Yeah.
That was his understanding that he shared, and that was probably a pretty accurate assessment of why there were so many fiddle players.
Yeah.
They got together and partied and had a good time, and they had there was a purpose behind, they had a really good place to make corn liquor, and as soon as they started making liquor, there was a purpose. They had a purpose to, get the instruments out.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I know that I just started learning fiddle, and when I've had a drink or two, I think I start playing better. I loosen up, and I stop using my brain as much and just actually listen.
There's a point of diminished returns.
There certainly is. Yeah.
But there's that little.
It's the opposite when I play banjo, because then I start playing stupid, try to play too loud, and
There's a little just, to get you going.
That's what I appreciate about the culture of alcohol consumption at Clifftop and Old Time in general. No one's falling on the floor. I'm never worried about anyone. They're just.
I've done that once or twice.
Well, I haven't had to walk anybody back to a tent, because everyone ultimately wants to just have a good time, and they're not trying to drown out their showers with alcohol. They're trying to drown it out with tunes.
Well, we're having fun, so we left those issues way back behind us at home, and it's a party, and that's the point of like the liquor, is that once you make liquor, then you have a party, and people bring the instruments, and it just the more liquor you have, the longer the party's gonna last, and the more tunes you're gonna play, and they got pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's a hand in hand.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's the Round Peak style, which is a big influence. A lot of the way that I play, and I've studied and done a lot of research. I'm a kind of geeky history geek and this musicology, but spent a lot of time listening, put a lot of effort and energy into studying these Round Peak fiddle players. I've met a lot of the guys and hung out, listened at the Mount Airy Fiddlers Convention, which happens on the first week of June, the first weekend in June in Mount Airy, North Carolina, at the Veterans Memorial Park.
I went last year. I missed it this year. Had to work.
Yeah, well, that's... Did you really have to work?
This time I really did.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm making it to everything else, but I don't have the sticker now, so I'm going to be missing a year. There's these the OCD part of they put a sticker on your windshield of like 47th annual, 48th, and went last year and I missed this year, so I'm going to have an awkward little gap.
Tell them to leave a space.
Yeah, leave a space, and I'll just put a new sticker that just says I'm sorry.
But just that you're missing one, just to know that you're missing one, just like leave a blank space and then put the next one.
I might do that if hopefully I don't have to work next year. I was going to just say that please.
The Round Peak, the bowing styles and the way that those guys played, a lot of that, I'll play tunes, and we're going to play some tunes in some other styles, and that, as far as like, accuracy and stuff, I really like to, take different ideas from a group of people and kind of push it, bring it together, and I'm not trying to play like any one fiddle player, but I'm trying to play it, create the style or create the understanding of the style. But when I'm playing these tunes outside of the Round Peak style, a lot of that'll I'll use the bowings in that drive, and it'll kind of creep into West Virginia or Kentucky tunes.
Sure.
And so that's just part of, it's become part of my style. And
yeah.
As a sort of revivalist or, kind of old time fiddle player, it's just the way that I play in the most natural way that I can play the fiddle. There's also other little things that slip into my, whatever you call it, the North Carolina tunes that I play. But
I think playing with you is really good for me. I come from like a classical piano and music theory background, so I often get a little too interested in the game of trying to play the notes, which isn't traditionally what the banjo is supposed to do, play all the fiddle notes. But when I play with you, I just can't, because you're playing a lot more than notes, and the patterns you're using, I get a little hypnotized, and I have to just stop thinking about it as hard. I start thinking about holding that rhythm more and less about the pitches, and I think that's good for me. I want to play more with you this week for my old time brain. Well, to get educated.
Let's do a West Virginia tune.
Yeah, man.
Upani Mountain. That's another one of those. There's a lot of we can list names, and West Virginia. There's a lot of old fiddle players, and the one or two that are my favorite are the Carpenter fiddle players. Ernie Carpenter. I met him when I was a teenager and drove from Ohio to Glenville, West Virginia, and then a little bit older than Ernie, and French Carpenter had passed away before I started coming to festivals, and so I've studied recordings of both of these guys. I met Ernie Carpenter, and it was sort of like one of those kind of, sort of like it seems like this, the whole, history of the geology of the earth coming out of a fiddle, the spiritual, crazy ethereal sound.
Yeah. Well, let me tune up my my second string real quick, then I'll be ready to go.
So you put Piney Mountain, it's a modal or sort of A minor-ish sound, and there's some Irish music that has similar scales and stuff. But if you take time to listen to these tunes and compare it to some of the Native American singing that they do at the powwows, or if you really want to understand where some of these weird modal West Virginia tunes that are crooked, listen to Native American flute playing.
Okay.
It's a lot slower than the way that I play, but this is the people up in the mountains up here were very close to the Native Americans. They they fought and killed each other. They intermarried and had children.
Yeah.
And they got together and traded and they
I haven't heard.
They played music, and some of the Native Americans, became Americanized and were actually in the 20th century, playing fiddle tunes.
I haven't heard anyone draw any comparisons between Native American music and this. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Listen, and if you really want to hear it, go listen to some Native American traditional flute playing.
Yeah.
Because that's where you'll hear these melodies and scales.
Y'all have your homework.
This is a theory. I have no proof. I have nothing to really prove my statement other than you can experience that for yourself, do your own research, and
some
just think about
ethnomusicologists make this your thesis.
Okay.
Native American flute music and
they don't prove anything to me. But it's worth talking about.
Sure.
And it's worth writing about, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's real.
Oh man. Oh boy. That tune is bonkers. What a ride. Jeez Louise. When I first heard you play it, I was trying to count it. I just can't count it. It's uncountable. At least not in the moment. But I started to feel it.
Yeah, it's easy to find the meter when you realize that it just goes
Right? Yeah.
like that. It never stops.
Yeah. That keeps going. Foot keeps tapping.
If you try to count to 4, you'll
Right.
really mess yourself up.
Well, that's why that that Milner Coken book,
Um,
Claire Milner and Walt Coken, they like transcribed all those tunes. They have like 1,400 tunes. You heard of this?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. You're just
No, I'm just like transcribing that tune would be
yeah. It was crazy.
because well they don't play it. They're not likely to play it
The same way.
Yeah,
sure.
twice and stuff like that.
But in their transcriptions, there's no bar lines.
Oh, great.
Yeah, which I think is beautiful. They're just like, let's admit, if the moment we start making bar lines, we're destroying the music. It's already enough of a sacrifice to try to transcribe it at all. So
Yeah.
they're like, let's at least just do no bar lines.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a great marriage of archiving and anarchy. It's cool. How did you get into play old time music? I don't know anything about you.
It's such a weird story. It's been told and written about somewhere or another once or twice, but
Now it's being told again.
I played violin. I had some violin lessons, Suzuki lessons, and classical lessons, and I can get off on the whole tangent of like, well, I just didn't really get into the classical music scene,
Sure.
like competition and.
When was this?
I was like 7
Okay.
or 7, something 8, 9, 10, 11. So like 2 years I had a Suzuki teacher, and then I think like 2 years. So, so by the time I was 11 or 12, I'd quit playing violin, I think. And I had these health issues in Cleveland, Ohio. There's a big university hospital where I spent a lot of time when I was a kid. And there's like next to the hospital, which is like one of these big like hospital complexes. There's like a half a dozen different, hospitals in the whole like, there was like a, women's and children's hospital that did maternity. They had a psychiatric that was a whole like separate, building, a different hospital. All the hospitals are connected through like underground basements the tunnels. I mean, this is like a university, like a big university hospital.
Yeah.
Like so across the street from like the edge of the hospital where we would drive to get to the clinic where I would see my cardiologist when I was not in the hospital, there was a little store called Goose Acres Folk Music Center, and they had this funny sign with a goose playing a banjo.
Yeah.
And my mom was into music, and I was taking lessons and playing, and so my mom actually like busted me out one time, and I went in there in a wheelchair, and then they were like, "Oh, come back," I can't remember, Thursday night or Friday night when they were having a jam session.
Yeah.
So we went back over there, and a bunch of those characters are here. Bobby Smakula, Pete Smakula was his dad. Bobby lives in West Virginia now, and he'll be here at this festival, like doing instrument sales, and he's a exceptionally well renowned luthier, especially in the folk music and old time music scene. And so Pete, Pete was in the front of this like retail area of the store with all his students around in a circle playing the tunes slow and stuff. And then when you walk into the back end of the building where the luthier shop was, there was Bob Smakula and his friends. And at this time, that guy was probably like 22 years old, and he was already gaining a reputation as being a good guy to bring your guitar to. Kevin Enoch was working with those guys at some point, and he was back there playing a banjo, and actually Kevin might not have been working with them yet. There was a bunch of people playing old time music and bluegrass and Cajun music. They were back there drinking beer and doing other things, and it was kind of like in a classical world, nobody would have a violin with a beer set next to their case,
Yeah.
or anywhere in the room. And it was just like the idea of playing music just for fun.
Yeah.
Was something that I had not seen, and it was just like the real thing.
Yeah.
This was like where I had to like escape
Yeah.
the classical scene of like, you know, the seat behind you breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
And you know, challenges, the orchestra challenges are coming up, and you're going to lose your seat, and your teacher's going to give you the hell to pay for it. And so that was like, these guys are like playing music for you know, they're just the love of it.
Yeah.
There was none of that attitude, but the, you know, the whole like spirit and nature of the music was like, I think, elevated. Now, there's, in the classical scene, there's people that have incredible passion for that music, and you know, that's, you know, it didn't happen.
Yes.
You know, it didn't happen with my experience. I got into this folk music.
Well, yeah. Ultimately, you have to for any music, you have to have someone just exuding love and enthusiasm about it, and you see it as a child often, and to really develop a taste for it and to understand it, because you have to see the way that it affects other people, and then know that it can affect you that way. And you have to be inspired by watching other people's inspiration, and some people get that for classical, but there's something that's, you know, you don't really see a lot of old time players who are just like jaded by the music or the culture. They're like, no, I'm doing this until I die, you know. Yeah. That's how I feel. Yeah. Wanna play this June Apple?
Yeah.
Let's play this June Apple. That was a good story. That's exactly. Now I feel all inspired. Little Davy Bass getting out of his hospital room on a wheelchair. Going to a local folk music store. That's what the show's about.
Here's a tune called June Apple. This is another Round Peak tune. Tommy, Fred, be a good experience to look them up and hear them play this tune. June Apple.
Take a little bite of me. You can ride the old gray mare and I can ride the road. You get there before I do, you be my California. Wish I was June Apple hanging on a tree. Every time pretty girl passes, take a little bite of me. Charlie, he's good old boy. Charlie, he's a dandy. Charlie, he's a good old boy. Feeds them girls some candy. I wish I was June apple hanging on a tree. Every time pretty girl passes, take a little bite of me. Every time a pretty girl passes, take a little bite of me.
June apple. Oh man, a little hypnotized. I know I got dead air isn't good. I just need to like process that for a minute. being a bad radio personality. Oh boy. Oh, what's next, man? What do you want to play next?
Oh,
Got a story behind this one?
It has an awful name. I don't like the name of this tune very much, but it's such a good tune. It's called Indian Squaw.
Yeah. That just means like a Native American woman, right? Isn't that what squaw means? I don't know what it means.
It's just not a very good word.
All right. Is it derogatory? Is it a white person word for Native American?
Pretty much.
Pretty
I
much?
mean,
okay.
They're all white people words.
Right.
I mean, Indian. Come on.
Sure. Well, I mean, Lenape isn't a white person word, you know.
A what?
Lenape isn't a white person word. Like, I don't know which ones are white people words, which ones are First Nations people words, you know.
Yeah.
But squaw, bad word.
Bad word. Good tune.
Not tasteful, good tune. That sums up most old time music. Yeah. So be it.
But the tune comes from a guy named Ed Haley, and as much as I know about Ed Haley, I think he started in West Virginia, and then moved. I thought somebody was. We have a little audience. I thought somebody was going to raise their hand and
class.
and give me
Ed Haley.
Well,
John says Kentucky.
I believe he came from West Virginia and moved. So when you look at his repertoire, there's a bunch of West Virginia tunes that you recognize, and then a bunch of Kentucky tunes. So, and he was quite a like intense musician, and very scholarly and professional player for the the 1920s and stuff. He was on the real top of the game, and I think some people talk about Ed Haley as being sort of like where the certain styles of music that went into like contest fiddling and bluegrass and stuff started from just some of the intensity of the way that he played tunes, and seemed to progress into just more and more and more, just it's hard to really describe it.
Yeah.
He was sort of just a very important American fiddle player. That's a whole it's a whole nother whatever you call it, degree program to finish finish what I don't know about Ed Haley.
Yeah. Let me tune real quick. I banged on that last tune real hard, so I think I'm out of tune. I'm gonna let you take this first pass, all right? Indian Squaw. There it is.
That's a cool tune.
That's worth a that's worth a slightly politically incorrect title, I think. Personally, not that I suffer anything for it. Maybe I should. I don't know. I mean, that's a killer tune. Hope you enjoyed that ride. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe to Get Up in the Cool on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever podcatching app you use. David requested I tell you that his crew is playing a rowdy square dance for Girls Rock on October 18th. I included a link in this episode's description. David says to look out for the next rowdy square dance to happen in the Durham or Triangle area, so if you want to party, you know where to go. Jody Kruskal, my guest from last week, just updated his website with a new old-time record for sale with Luke Richardson. Just go to jodykruskal.com/buy_stuff.html or just jodykruskal.com and then click on the Buy Stuff tab. And click on the picture of his new CD, Waiting for the Boatsman. They do a Roll Them Simmons. It's just beautiful. I'm so glad that tune is making its rounds. Everyone learn how to play that tune. If you can play an instrument, play Roll Them Simmons or Roll Them Similins. Pete Comley signed up last week to support Get Up in the Cool on a weekly basis through Patreon. So he gets to check out this week's exclusive bonus track of me and David Bass playing an extra tune, also caught on video by Josh Plouffe. Thank you again, Josh, and thank you, Pete. Just a reminder, anyone who signs up on Patreon to support the show will get to help choose the contents of Get Up in the Cool's Best of 2016 album and get a CD in the mail. Now is the time. Just go to CameronDeWhitt.com and click on the button that says Patreon. Or, if you're on a computer, just click right here-ish. Somewhere around here it should say Patreon. Finally, here's this week's Get Up in the Cool call to action. This is easy. Everyone can do this. When I first started releasing the show, I spammed all the old-time related groups on Facebook, and the moderators were irritated because, yes, it technically was self-promotion, although to me, it's just old-time promotion and old-time proliferation. Anyway, I've chilled out on sharing it on those groups, but it's not self-promotion if you share it on your favorite old-time folk or bluegrass Facebook group. This is one of the most effective ways of sharing stuff on Facebook because it bypasses all the algorithms and etc., which is why the moderators of these groups are real protective of the content that gets posted, and I get that. But no one's going to put up a fuss if you put in a good word for the show. Alright, tune in next week for more Get Up in the Cool. Nikos Pappas is up next. It's going to be a hoot, I promise. See you then.